Recording in progress.
Let me try that again. Good morning, everybody.
Getting some.
Got a little feedback here. Feedback.
Everyone check something really quick.
My name's Ardo Rintila. I will be chairing the infrastructure meeting this morning. It is, let's see, April 9th, 10:01. I'm going to call this meeting to order. It looks like we have the feedback under control. So, Clerk, would you like to take roll call?
Director Alvarado?
Here.
Chair Rentila?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. President Alvarado, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let's see, public comment. Members of the public may comment during this time, up to 3 minutes per speaker. Directors may briefly respond or ask clarifying questions, but may not engage in discussion regarding public comment made during this time. Chair, that would be me. Now is the time for public comment for items not on the agenda. Madam Clerk, have we received any public comment?
We have not. If anyone wishes to speak on non-agenda items, please approach the podium or raise your hand in Zoom. Seeing none, we have no public comments.
Thank you. Are there any in the audience? No, seeing none? Thank you. General Manager Andrew Clough, please lead us through the remainder of the agenda.
Thank you, Chair Rentila. First on the agenda, item number 1 is to accept the minutes of March 12, 2024 Infrastructure Operations and Environment Committee. Madam Clerk, have we received public comments on this item?
We have not. If anyone has any comments on item 1, please approach the podium or raise your hand in Zoom. Seeing none, we have no public comments.
Can I get a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Item 2 is to receive a report on West County wastewater odor complaint response. Madam Clerk, have we received any public comments on this item?
We have not. If anyone has any comments on item 2, please approach the podium or raise your hand in Zoom. Seeing none, we have no public comments.
Thank you. Now I'll ask Aaron Weiner, our Director of Water Quality and Resource Recovery, to go through a odor complaint response process. And this is in response, and we gave a very brief set of information and the contact information at the last meeting. Aaron was, where were you? You were off at a conference. Can't remember. We were trying to remember. I know he was.
Seems like a long time ago.
He was on an excused absence. Anyway, Aaron's here today to go into some detail about our complaint response.
Thank you, General Manager Clough. Good morning, President Alvarado, Vice President Rentila, staff. As Andrew said, Aaron Weiner. We're going to talk a little bit this morning about my favorite subject in the world, odor complaints and odor complaint response. So we'll move right into this, and today he's going to follow me, and it was a little bit unplanned, but he's going to talk about the next item, which is the providing an update on the treatment plant operations and maintenance. So this is the agenda. Actually, just back up, if you don't mind, just for a second. We're going to just breeze through this: odors in general, existing complaint program, investigation and response protocol, mid to long-term control strategies, and the status of program development. So if you don't mind, Robin, or whoever is in control, Lakima. So the big thing I wanted to talk about here is that odors, as it states on the slide, they're everywhere in wastewater. And in addition, in our community, with all the industry and all the roads and freeways, ports, odors come from everywhere. The biggest thing, the biggest source is H2S, as it states. And H2S, hydrogen sulfide, is created by microbes, and they are everywhere in our 250 miles of sewer. They create hydrogen sulfide in the absence of oxygen. And H2S, hydrogen sulfide, is an indicator of other potential odors. It's measurable at ultra-low levels, as it states, and we have what's called a gyrometer at the treatment plant. It's a very technical instrument that can measure H2S down to single-digit parts per billion. And for context, that is equal to maybe a drop of water in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. I mean, that's how low it goes. And the biggest thing about odors, and H2S in particular, is that people are highly variably sensitive to it. There are folks who can actually become nauseous and have adverse impacts down to 2 or 3 parts per billion. Other people, a couple parts per million, which is 1,000 times larger than a part per billion, it can be exposed with no ill effects. So it's a really tough thing. And anyway, we'll go to the next slide, please. As noted here, the sources at the treatment plant, and that's really our biggest concern, is the treatment facility. We've got digesters, we've got an open headworks channel, we got bar screens, grit removal, other solids handling processes, and those are all at the treatment facility. As well, we have refining, we have chemical facilities, industrial facilities in the area that also give off odors and contribute to the complexity of the problem. And then as it mentions there, I already mentioned the underground pipes, and really what happens is you have these microbes that grow in a slime layer on the top of pipes, and they continually, in the absence of oxygen, give off the hydrogen sulfide. And it's everywhere throughout our collection system. And as noted there in the bottom, some homes are prone to having these odors and the hydrogen sulfide come up through the vents that, from toilets and sinks in the house, can actually come up out of the sewer lateral. So that can be a problem as well. Next slide, please. So currently, we have an odor complaint response protocol at the treatment facility. Typically, complaints are called into the treatment plant and we respond. Usually, the calls that come to me, and as noted there, they're dispatched. We dispatch staff, or I'll follow up directly with a complainant and start the investigation. Typically, our complaints come in either from residents, very frequently driving by on the parkway, and other times a resident or somebody else out anywhere in our network may call the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, and we can sometimes get called from the inspectors, and sometimes they come on site. And as it's noted there, site visit is conducted. What we do also at the treatment facility is twice or 3 times a week, we have a protocol where one of our operations staff will go out and they'll take the gyrometer, they'll take readings of H2S and document any other odors noted at the facility. That helps us if the air district comes, it helps us to have that documentation to show them that we're being diligent about trying to reduce the odors and minimize the odors. And as noted, findings are documented. Next picture, please. And when we get into the next presentation, we'll talk a little bit about some of the ways we engineer in odor prevention and that type of thing. So mitigation, if possible, and follow up with complainant. And just for an example, we got a call about 2 weeks ago. I was given the resident's phone number, followed up with the person, went out, drove around to her house, and did notice some odors, but they weren't coming from the treatment facility. So I followed up with her, documented everything, and asked her if she would like a letter. She did not, and that is also part of our program, is to follow up with the complainants and provide a letter of findings if they like. Next slide, please. So most of the written elements are complete, and an agency rollout and training will follow in the next couple of weeks, the next month to 2 months. And really what that involves, I mentioned earlier that the protocol we have right now is specific to the treatment facility, but what we want is we want to funnel any call from anywhere in the network, whether it's a home, whether it's somebody driving in our service area somewhere. We want the program, we want everybody in the organization to know what the protocol is, who to call when we have these issues. That way we can document, and we have a centralized spot for all of that information. So that's all I had, and I am happy to answer questions if you have them. Vice President Rintila?
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but would you happen to know the phone number that people can call you for the record?
Yeah, they call in. I don't know what the phone number is off the top of my head. They'll usually call the main line here or the main line at the treatment facility, but part of the developing, fully flushing out the odor, the complaint response procedure is to have a list of phone numbers, and we will publish that when I finish it.
We can give the general number right now. It's the same if somebody's calling in for a sewer spill or anything else.
Yes, and I'm happy to do that. I don't remember what the general number is. If somebody wants to put it up on the screen or give it to me, I will read it out.
So the main number here at Hilltop is 510-222-6770, excuse me.
Thank you for that. And the the main line into the treatment facility is in the 510-237-6603.
Thank
So
you.
either of those numbers will get the caller to the right place.
Yeah, and I'd like to really give Andrew, staff, and yourself kudos for bringing this to our attention, because I've spoke to you guys about a friend of mine has a wrecking yard at the end of Parr, and he's complained about odors. But I've asked him, I mean, you're flanked by services, a marshland, and then you've got Veolia on the other side. How do you know that this is coming from our plant? And he wasn't able to answer that, but I really appreciate you guys acting so quickly on this since I brought it to your attention.
Sure.
Greatly appreciate it.
Any time, and we have been out there several times to this gentleman's yard, so.
Did we ever find out where it was coming from? Was it us, or we don't really know?
Don't know. That's still a mystery, and I don't know that he contacted Republic Services. And there are horses in the area, so it's very difficult to isolate something like that in his location.
Excuse me, Director Rintila, did you say that was on Garden Tract?
Parr,
Oh, on Parr, okay.
yeah. Carlos Auto Wreckers.
Okay, so that would be north of us, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the one where Andre flips the switch.
Yeah.
Makes it go away.
Yes.
Well, they did ask because they have a client that works in Concord, and it had been mentioned that you could put odor, various odors, strawberry flavored odors, and but
We have done that. I have been involved in that type of, it's a masking. You use a masking agent. The problem with that is that in my experience, I've wound up in a situation where folks have objected to the smell of the masking agent. So it's kind of, sometimes it's a no-win, but there are many other things, the variability of the wind, right? The direction that the wind's coming out of, so anyway.
that's actually a good point. What if you're allergic to strawberries? And oh no. But thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other questions? We good?
I think in Joe's discussion in a couple minutes, we can talk, I imagine he'll talk a little bit about the infrastructure improvements that will significantly reduce the odors that we know are generated from our treatment plant with open sludge ponds and sludge handling mechanisms that we have currently in interim measures. So
Absolutely, and I don't think it's in the slides, but I'll just mention it now. One of the slides shows our new rotary drum thickeners, and they're inside a building with a ventilation and air scrubbing system on the building. Formerly, we are going away from our DAF systems, which are open-top tanks. So that's just an example of how everything that we do is conceives of an odor issue and tries to mitigate that, so.
And as Angela mentioned in the capital improvement program update, that we do have essentially at this point, a placeholder project for odor control, but we aren't going to do any investigation or design work on anything until we see how the changes at the plant are operating and what that does, because it's going to be a significant difference, although there will be some problems still at the headworks, which we know can be problematic from time to time. And so there's a possibility of some additional odor control work at the plant in the future, but we want to see what happens with the current changes.
We probably need 2 or 3 years or 1 or 2 years of baseline data of the new processes and facilities to really understand what the next steps will be.
And then, as Aaron mentioned, there's also complaints that come in from out within the collection system, and those come in, but the complaint response will be funneled through the same place, but your guys, Gordon's crews out in the field get those, or we get those complaints sometimes, and when we do have some kind of a spill or the cleaning, the types of measures that sometimes there are some of those, what we call it, the cover-up perfume or whatever, that Gordon's crews will put on site, generally for smaller operations to abate it when it's there. But,
Thank you.
and you were in Denver at the National Water Reuse Conference, Aaron. Our collective.
Okay. No, that's okay. Yeah, actually, if you don't mind, I just wanted to run through a couple. I thought that was the last slide and didn't realize that there was one more, but just wanted to run through a couple of the mid to long-term control strategies. We've already talked about a couple of them. We try to anticipate potential issues during design. And one example I'll throw out there is a small lift station, sewer pump station that we installed a couple of years ago. And it's close to homes. And we've been dealing with an issue of exhaust from the emergency backup generator that's right there. And that's an example of something that we're looking more closely at in the design and planning and design phases. Engineering controls where appropriate. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the next presentation. And then the last thing is to perform and document regular monitoring, and we will probably expand that beyond the treatment facility as well. So those are the other items that I had. So,
Aaron, I'm glad you brought that up. If you look at the third bullet point, the one he mentioned there at the McBride lift station, that's a good example of where the resident clearly didn't want us to make the improvements and put in the backup, generator facility there, but it's one where the greater good to the community is certainly to do so and to have the backup to avoid the potential spills and other larger problems that would come from it. But what we're also asking then is there's a potential greater impact on that one residence or the ones right adjacent to that facility that is needed to be there for the larger good of the whole community. And so we are improving and wanting to do a better job in the future in the planning stages rather than what we've been trying to go through sort of during and post-construction to try to monitor and filter out the exhaust fumes, et cetera. And a lot of it's just was it once a month or twice a month that we do a test of the generator?
About once a month.
Looking at Gordon, he's like, don't look
Once
at
a
me.
month, yes.
That's right, it's in maintenance. Anyway, once a month, and so that, it's not a frequent operation, but it is an impact to that particular, a couple of the residents right there. And so how much do we invest in a filtration and scrubbing for an infrequent event, and what's appropriate or not? And all of these really come down to a case-by-case basis. And in this case, we really should be doing something, because the way that it's situated on above the house, and any of those odors and the different exhausts that will be coming from that would certainly drop right down into their front porch, basically. So we're trying to fix it, and I think we're having much better relationship with the resident. He knows that we're working hard on it, so I think he appreciates that. But it didn't go as smoothly at the beginning as we may have liked. I'll just leave it there.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Aaron. Next on the agenda is item 3, to receive an update on treatment plant activities. Madam Clerk, have we received public comments on this item?
We have not. If anyone wishes to comment on item 3, please approach the podium or raise your hand in Zoom. Seeing none, we have no public comments.
All right. Aaron, are you going to take the start, or is it Joe? Aaron will come and introduce Joe. Okay.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. Joe Maharukan, who, as I mentioned before, is one of our operations and maintenance managers at the treatment facility, will come on up and talk about the next item, which is treatment plant and maintenance updates. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Aaron, and good morning, everybody. Mr. Clow and Director Alvarado, Dr. Rentila. So I'm Joe Maharukan. As Andrew explained, I'm one of the 2 O&M managers. So we basically run the day-to-day operations at the treatment plant, and what we're going to talk about today are the updates and the maintenance transition from the clean and green construction to post-construction. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide, please. We're going to talk about the treatment plant updates, the completed clean and green components, and the benefits that we've observed so far, as well as a maintenance transition and the post-construction maintenance. And we'll close this out with any questions that you may have. So next slide, please. Yeah, one of the things that we added fairly recently was the neural blower upgrade, which is an improvement over our existing air system, which we use to apply to our aeration basin. And the second item that's of great importance is the completion of the equalization basin number 4. So both of those have been completed. They're online now, and we're still fine-tuning some things for the neural blower. The next item you'll see there is the pump system upgrades, and they're nearly complete. Those pumps actually bring the water into the plant, and we have 2 of them. Both pumps we're still working on right now. I think pump number 4 is nearly complete. Pump number 3, I know that probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's still being tested and being evaluated. The neural blower upgrades have led to an observed 30% reduction in power consumption. And I was talking to Aaron about this week. That is the most exciting thing that I've seen. We have a huge reduction in our utility bill because of the electric blower. These gains have been achieved without other upgrades to the aeration basin. We haven't done any modifications to our valves, our piping, or the diffusers. So we're still working on fine-tuning the neural blower, and I'm sure we're going to see even greater reductions in electrical power consumption. Next slide, please. This picture here is the new rotary drum thickeners, which will be replacing the dissolved air flotation units that Aaron had mentioned earlier. Those are a source of odors. They are a pretty old process. These things are going to do the same thing, but they'll be indoors. They'll have a ventilation system. So it's going to be a much cleaner, much better operation and brings us into 2024. The DAFs were built probably in the 70s, so they're pretty old technology. Next slide, please. This is the neural blower. You're seeing the outside of it. This is what you would see if you walked into the plant. It's a dual core blower and very, very efficient. So that board you see, the picture on the right-hand side, it's a control board that the operators see if they're actually in the building. We have the ability to remotely monitor this system as well at a computer system that's actually in the operations building at the plant. Next, please.
Hey, Joe,
Yes.
can you mention what they replaced and what we used to use?
We had these blowers that were Hoffman blowers. And every time we turned on one of these things, I mean, they're 1970s, 1980s technology. So nobody really cared too much about electrical efficiencies. But those things were power hogs. And every time we turned one on, it was kind of an interesting thing to watch. They're noisy, they're very inefficient. You can't hold a conversation in the room there. These ones you can talk. The other ones too drew a tremendous amount of electrical power. I mean, it's probably 7, 8 times more. So like I was telling Aaron the other day, I'm thrilled with the new neural blower. These things are so efficient. It's almost unbelievable. I've never seen anything this good before. And I've been at 4 different agencies, so these are really good pieces of equipment. This is the picture of the neural blower with the shield off. And the shield basically is a noise abatement device, amongst other things. But you can kind of see what's inside the neural blower. And we have the ability to monitor a lot of things that were not possible with the old system. We can read the bearing temperatures, which is a great thing to have. You can spot problems before they become a problem. And then we have other devices and other sensors on this unit that we can monitor constantly. So it's really a big move up for us. And truthfully, we're still getting used to the neural blower. So go to the next slide, please. The influent pumps, we were talking about that earlier, and these influent pumps are a lot more efficient than the older ones. The older ones are probably 1970s, 1980s, and these pumps, I'm really excited about them. I'm sorry we don't have an earlier picture of it, but the old ones are pretty tall. They also have shafts that go about 2 stories up, and those shafts, of course, are a breaking point, and that's something we have to monitor constantly. These motors and these pumps are a lot more efficient. It's a much smaller package and makes it a lot easier for maintenance and everything else that goes with that. Next slide, please. So the maintenance transition, one of the things we've done is historically, since I've been here, our maintenance has always been reactive. We wait until something breaks unless we notice something really out of kilter, like a pump is vibrating excessively. Planning and scheduling, we're looking at data, and we brought on board something called Computerized Maintenance Management System. That's what the CMS stands for. And what this is enabling us to do, and we've only had it online since around October, is we are now able to collect all of the operations and maintenance information on our equipment, and then we can actually plan out our maintenance. So this has been a great addition that we have, and active maintenance, which we've always done. And so with the clean and green, we have an opportunity now to look at this new equipment, capture what's within the operation maintenance, like lubricating or oiling something every month or 2, and we can now actually plan it out. So we have more maintenance equipment, but we're going to be able to plan for it now. And of course, with that, something that I'm very interested in is tracking the cost. And our CMMS program actually has that layer built in. So it's going to be a big help for us. The third bullet item there talks about the changes that allow us to create an asset management program, which is what I've spoken about very briefly today. very exciting program. And like the neural blower, we're still fine tuning the CMMS. We're still gathering information and putting it in, and it's going to be a big help for all of us. Next slide, please. Maintenance transition. Data analytics has become central to our asset management program. We're looking at data, for example, on how the equipment's operating. Life cycle costs, which decides the direction of support. If you know that a motor maybe lasts about 5 years, that's what we're looking at. We'll enter that information into the CMMS. Uptime, which measures asset availability, that'll be available in the CMMS, so we can look at how reliable is this equipment. Measurable from these efforts are evidenced by no failures in our lift station in this wet season, which is something that we're very proud of. I haven't gotten too many off-hour emergencies because of CMMS. We've been able to catch things proactively and fix things. So it pretty much validates our staff efforts in the direction that we've chosen. And having been here for the number of years I've been here, this is a phenomenal change, and I'm really very pleased with what we have today. And it's going to be an ongoing improvement, but I see that we'll be there and pretty soon. And I see that with the lack of breakdowns of our lift stations, that kind of speaks for itself. Next slide, please. Post-construction maintenance, where this is going to come in is all of this information we're receiving. And right now, as we speak, we're getting operation and maintenance instructions, recommendations on how often we have to work on equipment. So all of that is going to factor into our CMMS. We're capturing all that information as we speak right now. Next slide, please. That brings me to the conclusion. So basically what we've got is we've upgraded the plant very significantly. We're also capturing all of the maintenance that needs to be required to be done, and it's going into our CMMS. So while we will have a lot of new equipment, we're also looking ahead at our maintenance requirements, and all of that is going to help us bridge this gap and not react so much to plant problems and lift station problems. We can actually plan ahead, plan on maintenance, and better budget everything that we do. So if there's any questions, happy to answer them.
Thank you, Joe. If I could add, just before questions, you had a slide up there, post-construction maintenance. Either at the May or the June meeting, we'll come back to the IOE and talk a little bit about that. And what that is referencing is with the Clean and Green project and the contract we have with ENGIE, part of that is there's a response maintenance of some of this new equipment, but there's a role to play for our own maintenance staff. And it is linked to performance metrics that are in that contract. And so an important part of what Joe's talking about is doing the preventative maintenance and not simply being reactive. And that's in an effort to make sure we maintain the warranties properly, and also what we need to do from an operations and maintenance standpoint to basically do what we're responsible for, so that we could potentially hold our contractor liable if they don't meet the performance metrics that this contract and these upgrades were supposed to create. What it also does is, as Joe showed nice shiny pictures of some blowers, and he didn't even talk about the ones that had been powered by methane that looked like you climbed down into the bowels of a 1940s battleship, which we don't need to use any longer either. But the amount of time and effort that maintenance staff was having to do to go after and fix and repair and create workaround systems for a lot of this infrastructure that was failing, what we're now able to do is to do this kind of preventative maintenance, but also out at the lift stations, the cathodic protection systems on the force mains. There are a whole bunch of other aspects of maintenance which were being neglected, because we couldn't get to those because we're having to respond to all these emergencies or breakdowns. So it's the ability, much like we talked about a little bit when Gordon was here talking about the collection system, is there'll be more effort in inspection and condition assessment and less in the actual cleaning, because we'll be able to focus those activities where they're most needed, and we can figure that out by the data we're collecting, and we'll be able to manipulate more effectively through our work order system. And the same thing here at the treatment plant is how we'll be able to distribute the resources that Joe has to work on maintenance as we maintain correctly the new equipment, but also allow us then, because we do still have quite a bit of old systems out there, especially out lift stations, although they're being significantly improved, and some of the electrical systems at the plant, not everything has been replaced, but significant portions of it have been. Thanks, Joe.
Okay, thank you.
President Alvarado, do you have any questions?
Yeah, well, with the old stuff, old equipment that we have at the plant, what happens to that equipment? I'm sorry. Yeah, what happens to that equipment?
Some of it has been taken out by Engie as part of the replacement. For example, the digesters, as you know, were demolished. It was about 1.5 years or 2 years ago, and there are new digesters now. Andrew mentioned the engine-driven blowers, there are 2 engines, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Joe, but I think they're probably each 10 feet wide, 8 feet deep, and 6 feet tall. I mean, they're reciprocating engines driven by gas, methane. We have to figure out what we're going to do with those. It wasn't part of, Engie's work to remove those, but eventually we're going to need that space for something. So it's something that needs to be addressed in our planning, our future planning. Just that one example.
Part of our future museum pieces, right?
It could be. Absolutely,
They
could be.
probably,
I think that's what I was getting at.
Yeah,
Is it going to be like a museum of?
their primary value at this point is scrap value, basically, for the metal. It'll probably cost us more to remove it than the value of the metal, but eventually that space will become available. That's was, like you said, not built into the contract, but removal of all the digesters and some of the other equipment was. But that's probably the single largest piece of equipment that's sort of in the way that remains, isn't it?
That along with the DAFT,
they'll
which are
be
going to be
there.
mothballed
Right.
here soon.
Yeah, and we'll have to figure out that space that's available for something in the future.
Exactly.
I imagine the space will probably be needed in the future sometime, but for right now, there's no plans for it.
No, we've really, like we've talked about, by getting out of it, and Joe mentioned the equalization basins, by no longer needing the sludge ponds, that freed up a huge amount of real estate at the plant, some of which we use for the equalization basins, some of which will potentially be used for wetland and habitat restoration and construction of the horizontal levee to help protect this infrastructure from sea level rise. But on the plant, in the main industrial footprint of the plant, there remains some of this other equipment that it's yet to be seen what we might want to build there. Maybe it's the landing for the conveyor belt that goes over to the mountain.
Yeah, I like the idea of a small museum somewhere. That'd be pretty cool, actually. Never thought of that before. Through the chair, if I can just add just one more note here. It just occurred to me that, based on the discussion that we've had and the presentation that Joe made and talk about maintenance specifically, if you recall, it was about 2 years ago that we did some restructuring, and we went away from the traditional maintenance and operations managers, and we evolved into 2 operations and maintenance managers. And one of the points of doing that was to better integrate our operations and maintenance staff. And I just wanted to just give a quick update on that, because it's really, really worked well. Historically, the 2 groups, maintenance and operations, were siloed, and they didn't necessarily work together as well as we would have liked. But there's been a very noticeable change in that, and our folks are working together. They're all under the same 2 managers, and it's really helped us a lot. And it's proved to have been a really good move, and has improved the way we're we're doing maintenance, we're doing operations. We've got operations teaching maintenance. We got maintenance teaching operations about, certain light maintenance tasks and that type of thing. But it's really worked out for us, and I just wanted to toss that out there. Thank you.
I do have a couple of questions and observations. I did notice that the thickeners are made out of brand-new stainless steel. Was that intended to make them out of stainless steel or purchase them, or as opposed to composite?
That's the way they came from the manufacturer. That's what NG spec environment in there tends to be a little harsh.
Yeah.
So that's the need.
And then I worked maintenance as a maintenance foreman for a refinery here in Martinez, and their maintenance program was run it till it fails, which was very dangerous. It was dangerous for the people in the plant and around the plant. And I'm glad to hear that we have a maintenance program where we're being proactive. With all this money being spent, which I love because we're looking at a state-of-the-art plant, can you tell the people that'll be watching this video down the road what all this new equipment means to them, how it translates to the ratepayers? In savings, maybe in maintenance fees, and
that's a really
I know it's a broad
difficult
question.
The savings, I'm gonna have to noodle on that one. Andrew, I don't know if you want to help me at all.
Justin, I could respond to that, but maybe we'll shift this one over to Justin, because I think what you asked opens up a good opportunity here for Justin to explain how we funded the Clean and Green project through the bond measure and how we're paying it back through a big portion through the energy savings that Joe mentioned on the more efficient blowers, and then the energy that will generate at the plant itself, and how that's going to pay for a big portion of it. And hopefully, while we made these tremendous improvements to the infrastructure, it helps to actually stabilize the rates in the long term.
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Once again, Justin Lovell, Director of Administrative Services. Yeah, so just to give you kind of a backdrop, bigger picture, we did finance the Clean and Green project through issuing bonds. So we actually were able to issue at a very advantageous time. So we had a very low interest rate over the 30-year period of the bonds. But the big part of how we structured the financing is that the cost savings, the savings that are going to be realized from this project are going to help pay for a good portion of our future debt service. And so, we're going to, as Joe mentioned on the turbo blowers, they're already recognizing savings, just for energy savings from the use of that. There's also the solar panels, the cogeneration system. Once those go online this year, we'll see additional savings on there. But it's, I don't know if I get to just answer your question, it is a lot of components of what we're looking at is, we're doing projects that are going to upgrade our facilities, get us new equipment, but at the same time, we're going to save quite a bit of money, really through energy costs, reducing our need to pay, to regenerate our own electricity is essentially what we're going to be doing. That's going to help pay for a lot of these projects. But as just in the longer term, as we've mentioned in previous board meetings, we are spending more money now just to get on top of, going from the reactive to a proactive maintenance mode, which is, we're catching ourselves up. So as we're changing our philosophy of how we maintain all the equipment. Hope that answers anything.
I use the word stabilize our rates, and that it doesn't mean that there will not be rate increases needed in the future, but had we not done this type of work and we were spending large amounts of money on the failures that we've had, as we've seen in the past, the emergencies in the past couple of years, as well as the energy rates that would continue to climb and continue to operate with this inefficient equipment, by changing that's what's going to dramatically make the change and help us stabilize that, so that we're not reliant upon those significant energy increases that we anticipated in the next 10, 15 years, that we'll be generating our own with this equipment that's installed now, that we're paying for primarily through those projected energy savings.
And it'll be a safer, cleaner plant. Which is
Absolutely.
greatly appreciated. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. So I guess we can go on to the next item.
Yes, we can, and just one note, sorry, do you mind reading through the next item, Madam Clerk?
The next item on the agenda is item 4, reports on issues or matters pertaining to the work of the committee. We have not received any requests for written comments on this matter. If anyone wishes to provide comments on item 4, they can approach the podium now or raise their hand in Zoom. Seeing none, we have no public comments on item 4.
General Manager, any comments?
Yeah, thank you. I was having an issue there. No further comments other than at the next meetings, either in May or June, we can have some follow-ups on this. We can talk about some of the other treatment plant improvements, microplastics, biosolids. So we talk about some other things outside of the Clean and Green project that you guys are doing at the plant itself, and maybe we wait till June to come back on that post-construction maintenance and sort of talk about that transition from construction into maintenance long-term on the Clean and Green contract.
Are we anticipated to do a presentation to the city of Richmond in 2024?
We don't have one scheduled, but we certainly can, yeah. That we're continuing to coordinate with them. I'm sure we'll want to be doing an update to both to the West County Wastewater Board and to the City of Richmond City Council regarding the WCA and the JPA, and that would include all of these are interrelated. So I would think that would be a good idea.
Thank you. I guess we'll move on to reports from the committee members. Any reports from President? None? None? The only report I have is that on May 18th, we will be having a career fair at the Fairmead, or the Hilltop Community Church. I'm anticipating West County Wastewater to be there. So if you're looking for a career or good union job, May 18th at the Hilltop Community Church from 10 to 2, which is a Saturday. And if anybody in the audience has anything to add or no one, I guess we can go ahead and close this meeting out. It's Tuesday, April 9th, 10:45. This meeting is officially closed. Thank you.